In this video, we're going to be discussing the difference between the selection tool and the direct selection tool. And we'll also be reviewing what the fill and the stroke colors are and how we go ahead and change those. So we're going to start off by discussing the selection tool, and then I will show you a few things and we'll get into the direct selection tool. So in our Illustrator environment, we can create different shapes that we previously have shown in a different video. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a few of these with different colors. And as I'm creating these, I'm going to go ahead and create them using different fill and stroke colors so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So remember the fill color. I guess I'm reviewing the fill and stroke color along with the selection tool. But the fill and stroke color differ because the fill color is going to fill the inside of an object, or if we have a path, it will fill in kind of that path and connect your end and starting anchor point, and kind of have that natural connection between them, even though there's no line connecting them. The stroke color, if I deselect, this purple is really light, and I know the stroke color is purple because it's active right now in my box, but remember you can select your object using your selection tool, and it will select an entire object or path. So in your notes, the description here is the selection tool. It allows you to select entire paths or objects, or whole paths and objects. They mean the exact same thing. But if I wanted to move this thing that now kind of looks like a watermelon in reverse, I could go ahead and move it, and it's going to move the entire path. Or if I wanted to move my blue rectangle, I could move my entire blue rectangle somewhere, and it's going to move that whole shape. All right. Now, the difference with our direct selection tool, our white arrow, is this allows you to make changes. So in our notes, the direct selection tool, it's the first thing I would write down, is it allows you to make changes or edit, E-D-I-T. Okay, so I will typically kind of remember the direct selection tool as my edit tool. It allows me to make changes to parts of an object. So the selection tool allows you to select and move whole objects or entire objects and paths. And the direct selection tool allows you to edit and change parts of a path or an object. It allows you to edit or change parts of an object or path. So how do we do that? What does that look like? So again, with my direct selection tool active, what I can do is select an anchor point, and I can move any anchor point. Remember, they have to be active. So this one's unactive because it's filled in white. So I'm going to click on it first, and then I can go ahead and move it. Click on my anchor point, and I can move it. So I can edit an object, or remember this one here is a path, and I can select an anchor point and I can move it. I can select an anchor point here and I can move it. I can select an anchor point here and we can move that. So I can edit different parts of an object. I can also click on the Bezier line. If I want to move that, I can move the whole Bezier line instead of just creating that anchor point that I want to go ahead and move. I can move the whole Bezier line here as well. Now you're probably wondering, why isn't my blue object showing up on top of my green fill and purple stroke path? And that's because of our layers and sublayers. So my blue object is at the bottom part of that layer. So sublayer order is really important, kind of like it was layer order wise in Photoshop. So if I want that to show up on top, I would just have to bring it to the top of those sublayers on my layer 3. So that's the main difference between our selection tool, moving whole or entire objects, and my direct selection tool, where I can select parts of an object. Click on my anchor point to make it active, and I can move that, or I can select a Bezier line and I can move that, and I can make edits or changes to parts of a path or an object. Now, the fill and stroke color. We've already kind of shown you how to go ahead and change these, but notice my stroke color box right now is on top of or in front of my fill color box. So right now that means, since it's sitting on top, that my stroke color is active. So instead of it being white, maybe I want it to be yellow, and we can't really see that. So I'm going to increase my stroke weight so we can have an easier time seeing. And maybe I wanted my fill color to be blue. All right. Well, let's say down the road, I don't really like that blue. I want to change it, but my stroke color box is in front, so it's still active. So what I can do in my tool palette is I can click once on my fill color. And what that does is it brings the box in front of my stroke color, now representing that my fill color is the one that's active. So I can come in now and I can change, that color to whatever color I want. All right. Likewise, I could also do that switch in the color palette. So I could click on my stroke palette or my stroke color here, and I could change the color of my stroke there. And then I could toggle in my color palette if I wanted to, and I could change the fill color. So whatever box is sitting in front is the one that is going to be active. Again, your fill color is filling in that object, or in this case, we might have a path that might have a fill color. So it's the color that's inside of our object. And then our stroke color is going to be the outline or the border color of our path or our object. So the stroke color is kind of like that outline color of our object, and we can change that to whatever color we need to. And that is all we have for the selection tool, the direct selection tool, the fill color, and the stroke color. What I did with the fill color is I outlined it with the green box to indicate that that was the fill color, and then the stroke color box I outlined in green so that you could have a visual of which one is which. So the selection tool in review allows you to select and move whole objects. The direct selection tool allows you to make edits or changes to parts of a path or an object. The fill color is the color that is inside of your object or path. And your stroke color is the outline or the border of your object or path. Pages 4 and 5 of the Intro to Illustrator notes, I have the Basic Shape Tool shortcut, which we will get to another day. And I also have the Many Faces of the Pen tool notes here for your viewing as well, so that all of our major Illustrator notes are bundled in one spot. But as long as you have pages 1, 2, and 3, so our environment, our tool palette, our Bezier line segments, and then our selection versus direct selection tool notes filled out, you are done with our Intro to Illustrator notes. Again, pages 4, Basic Shape Tool shortcut, and page 5, Many Faces of the Pen tool. You can read through those and look over them. However, we will be getting into other activities and assignments where we will go into those a little bit more in detail.